Planning Commission meeting to order at 6 o'clock. And we'll do the roll call.
Leanne Kashmarsky, White Oak Drive.
Bethany Cody, Lake Enchantment.
Jim Johnson, White Oak Drive.
Linda Winslow, Norwood Street.
Jason McCarthy, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll support that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes from the previous meeting, January 28th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Checking to see if there's any public comment right now. Unless you'd want to wait till an agenda item to come up and speak.
My name is Ralph Olson. I'm a township resident, and I was recently appointed to the ZBA Appeals.
Okay.
Board of Appeals, so I just wanted to say some things.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
Thank you for volunteering.
All right. 6A, new business response to Michigan Township Association's local preemption bill, House Bill 5529, and House Bill 5530, and House Bill 5531. Discussion. Jason.
So there's been a bipartisan package of bills that have been introduced into the legislature. And we believe that these would limit our, local zoning authority. There's been a number of them, but they're in the name of the state's housing shortage and directed at trying to positively affect that, I suppose. And several of the bills, there's a slew of them that I listed as part of that package, and they want to amend or directly override local zoning discretion currently exercised by us under the MZEA, or the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. Ironically, there's not anything in here that that we don't have really the authority to do already. And I would think that having these mandated to us instead of our ability to be flexible in these situations could limit us in some ways. So don't know how far along they are. Chairperson Johnson asked that this be on the agenda, and subsequently I drafted a letter in case the Township Planning Commission wanted to take action. But as I've always stated to you guys, anytime that there's an attempt to usurp the zoning ordinance or our ability to conduct zoning, I think it's just a further, it just further limits our ability to treat our community in the way that our community is, and limits our ability to, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and that's what they're trying to do with some of these provisions that they've introduced, where, our current master plan draft and our ordinance amendments that will follow to align with the master plan will cover some of these topics, but it would be nice to do that autonomously and not have that forced upon us in some way. So I kind of support the idea of exercising our ability to at least speak on behalf of what's being proposed, but it's up to the Planning Commission as far as how you'd like to treat it. And be happy to answer any questions that I can, or provide any other comments that you might seek.
Thanks, Jason. Any comments from any commissioners? Questions?
I agree with Jason. I read through this, and then I read the letter that was drafted for your signature, Jim, and I think it's a good idea. I really do. It just looked like those, whatever they want, if they pass some of that stuff, it looks really tight, and I don't think it works in our communities, and I think we need that discretion. information. It needs to stay local, because one shoe doesn't fit all, and, you know, I would
Yep.
support sending that letter and letting them know that, hey, you know, we get it that there's not a lot of housing, but, you know, and we, in our master plan, we accommodate for a lot of these things, of what they're talking about as well, but things need to be on a local expression, because you don't wanna limit somebody if you don't have to, right? On what size parcel they have, or information like that.
I guess I'm kind of surprised it's coming from Republicans and Democrats together, which is kind of strange, but do you have any insight as to why they want to do this? Just take more control away from locals, just because it's kind of
It's
a...
similar, Jim, to some of the energy stuff that's going on, and it's a governor's initiative. I don't know if this particular is maybe a governor's initiative too. I haven't drilled into it too far. But, you know, 1,500 square feet is pretty small.
Yeah.
In fact, in Trowbridge Park, our smallest parcel size allowable is 8,000 square feet. So, you know, that I don't even, you know, what size parcel that is, but that's very small. Even with water and sewer, that's small. So I'm not even sure that, you know, if we started carving them up into 1,500 square foot parcels, if we have the capacity to serve that. So that's one. Under number two, the shot clock, that's another one that's tough for us, because, you know, oftentimes when we first speak to somebody about a site plan, there's like an initial meeting on what they're proposing, and then there's some back and forth, and staff works to, I guess, curtail that project into a site plan that's approvable by the planning commission. I think we've done a good job of that over the years, where we don't have multiple meetings on a site plan. But sometimes that doesn't, you know, it may take 90 days to accomplish that. And then, you know, this is including incomplete applications, and limits the ability to request additional studies or supplemental information after initial review. You know, what the one project that comes to mind was the Forestville project, where we wanted to see some more information on traffic studies and things of that nature. So those all take more time likely than 60 days. Duplex by right, you know, I think what we're proposing in Trowbridge Park perhaps is the ability to have a special use permit for a duplex in Trowbridge Park. Perhaps, you know, that's something that we've discussed. But to have it by right is it could cause some issues. Accessory dwelling units, we've been talking about those, and they are in the master plan, and they will likely become part of our ordinance in the future. Parking requirements, caps for multifamily, well, I mean, it depends on how big the multifamily project is, right? So all of these, you know, especially the setbacks, the 15 feet, so in Trowbridge Park, the front yard setback is 25 feet from the right-of-way line or any easement or the most restrictive boundary that's there. So 15 feet, that's pretty close, and you know, with the amount of snow that we have this year, that right there could be a potential issue. And then minimum dwelling size prohibits minimum dwellings size requirements greater than 500 square feet. Well, I think one of our goals might be to eliminate building requirement size altogether. Because right now we have that 0 to 450 square feet, which is the tiny home. And then there's kind of a gap between 450 and 1,000 square feet. So staff internally has been talking, and maybe we've floated this to you guys before, about just eliminating the minimum square footage requirement at all, and then having it ensure that it complies with the building codes department. So that right there, those are things that we've been talking about through this master planning update process, that the zoning ordinance can positively affect housing affordability for our community in the right way without having these kind of mandates, you know, pressed against us. So I guess those are my comments on that, and I think the letter is balanced, and I think it's very factual.
Yeah, I thought
So-
it was very, very positive and open, like, you know, we want to work with you, but we want to maintain some control locally.
Yep.
So under 5, under parking requirements,
Mhm.
what is the last sentence? And allows mobile homes in any residential zone? What's that got to do with parking? And we don't have mobile homes, I don't even think that term is correct anymore. I don't think they call them mobile homes.
Yeah, well, they might be under the term manufactured, but yeah, it reintroduces, most communities have zoned mobile homes out
Right,
by requiring a minimum, well, actually, it might be building codes, but most building codes in the state now require at least 20 feet of wall in any direction. So
Right.
that right there eliminates single wide.
so they might want to think about putting that particular sentence, which is sort of stuck in with parking requirements
Yeah, it
somewhere
is,
else.
yeah.
That is,
Mhm.
maybe it's supposed to be number 6.
Well, I could see if it said allows manufactured homes, but mobile homes doesn't make any sense to me.
No, and,
That, you know, from the definition for mobile homes, you know, from those workshops we went to, it's on wheels and axles.
Yes, yeah.
And manufactured homes are delivered and there's a floor and gets set on a basement and blocks and
Or
all that.
foundation, yep.
well, so anyways, I'm sure someone else is going to ask that to be clarified at a higher level than I
Correct,
am.
yeah, we can look into that particular one, but I think just in general, the package itself it would limit our ability to curtail some zoning to our community,
Yeah.
instead of it being a blanket effect.
So did these particular bills get out of any committee, or did they get to a committee, or do we know any of that
I
part
don't
yet?
believe they're out of committee yet, but we are
Okay.
wanting to track that, and MTA, as you can see in the package here, also put out, you know,
Yeah, I saw that.
an urgency to contact legislators, so that's why we put the letter.
Okay. So it will go to our legislative people, or it will go to the whole group? Because it just says,
Yeah, I will direct it to multiple entities, so.
Okay.
109, you know,
Our-
yeah, I'll get
yeah,
it to the right
to the
people. I just did a draft letter, so you can see
okay,
what it.
all right, yeah, I think we need to send it, I agree with, I mean, I think if no one sends anything, whoever is proposing this is gonna think it's all great, but, community needs to get involved in making community decisions. There you go,
Well,
Jim. Want a
since
motion?
What's that?
You want a motion?
Yes.
I would think so.
Okay. I'll make that motion that we send this letter and that Jim Johnson, as Planning Commission Chairperson, sign the letter. And my only other question after it gets seconded is, do we have to run it by the Township Board?
Before it gets seconded, could you also put in there that we urge the township board to send a letter as well?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
I will add that.
Very well.
Okay. You second it? Oh, okay. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you. We will get those drafted, Jim, and if I have to deliver them to you and pick up dinner, we'll do that.
After the roof is shoveled.
Sure, that'll work, Chase. All right, unfinished business, 7A, Marquette Charter Township Master Plan Update, Sections 9 to 11, discussion. Jason?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to do tonight is preface our discussion, and hopefully it's a fairly quick discussion, but we'll see. The goal tonight is to distribute the master plan if you're ready to do so. So you have received sections 1 through 8. You've had them for a while, actually, and I haven't received any correspondence back. But we have a grant, and we've received an extension now until, I think it's the end of May, to get this adopted and still comply with the grant requirements. But when you update your master plan, there is a statutorily required 63-day review period. Now, we can make slight adjustments to the plan between that and the public hearing that would occur after the expiration of the 63 days. However, in order to meet our timeline, I think it's important that we get this out there for, we send it to our neighboring communities, our utility companies and railroads, and most importantly, the county planning commission. And so what I've done tonight is just to put together, and you have a copy of this in front of you, which I'm going to go through tonight. And then for the public's information, I have it on the screen as well. But this is really a summary of the plan itself. And I'm going to assume, because it was in your packet, that you guys have reviewed sections 9 through 11. And we'll just roll kind of these two agenda items together, and then talk about a timeline for getting this through, as long as that's okay with you. Yeah?
Fine with me.
Okay, here we go. So here is an overview of the differences between our last iteration of the master plan and this current one, which is expanded not only in pages, but in content, and we'll go through that. So first of all, why do we update the master plan? We wanted to reflect how the community has changed since 2020. There's now housing pressure, infrastructure demands, post-pandemic market shifts that we've seen firsthand, and regional economic conditions, they have all evolved. So this update ensures that our policy framework, which is our master plan, matches current realities and positions the township to respond proactively rather than reactively. Expanded plan structure. So our new draft significantly expands and reorganizes our master plan. Instead of combining topics, it provides dedicated chapters for housing, utilities, transportation, economic development, and future considerations. Future considerations was added by staff, and we'll get into that in a little bit. This makes the document clear and easier to use and more directly tied to implementation and decision making. Obviously, housing, because we did receive a grant from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority to update the master plan, housing is a major focus of this document. So the draft places strong emphasis on housing availability and diversity. It discusses options such as accessory dwelling units, duplexes, modular housing, and redevelopment of underutilized sites and properties. The goal is to not mandate change, but to ensure we have the tools available to encourage attainable housing and respond to market needs. State and funding alignment. This was a big component of it too, and this kind of came in at the end. Also dealing with future considerations, or section 11. The updated plan aligns more closely with statewide housing and redevelopment initiatives by, positioning our community for redevelopment-ready community participation and similar programs. The plan enhances eligibility for grant funding and infrastructure funding. This strengthens our ability to attract outside investment. Implementation and accountability. The draft moves beyond general goals. It includes a structural annual review process, clear amendment procedures, and emphasizes and a phased implementation priorities. This creates accountability and ensures the plan remains an active working document rather than a shelf reference, which sometimes happens these plans. But actually, when we get into rezoning applications or conditional use permits, we do reference the master plan quite a bit. Administrative modernization. The draft recognizes the importance of efficient development review processes, and it encourages technology upgrades, clear zoning, enforcement procedures, and evaluation of fee structures and staffing capacity. That's something new for us in this plan. So we'll aim to implement and improve upon those. And also, there are steps to improve transparency, predictability, and customer service, although, if I say so myself, we do a pretty good job of that already. Community priorities. These are the types of things that were brought out in the public input sessions, Lions Field Day, through the multiple surveys that were put out. So we had not only a resident survey, but we had a business survey. And so recreation is treated not just as a quality of life amenity, but as a strategic community asset. The draft supports non-motorized connectivity, year-round recreation, and partnerships that leverage grant funding. Recreation is linked to health, placemaking, and economic viability. If somebody's going to move to a community, it's usually the first three questions would be, what's your healthcare like, what's your schools like, and what kind of recreational assets do you have? Natural resource and resiliency. It's too bad Denny's not here, but environmental stewardship remains central to the plan. The draft reinforces balancing growth with protection of wetlands, shorelines, and sensitive areas. That's never not been a part of our community plan, especially in our neck of the woods here. It integrates hazard mitigation and sustainability principles into land use planning and zoning consistency. And then a big one is the public engagement expansion. The updated plan incorporates comprehensive community and business survey results and emphasizes ongoing public engagement. So not just every time that we do a master plan, but perhaps annually, we take a look at things and get input, whether we have a public hearing on, how we're doing, or there's other ways to do that. So public input is not limited to adoption. It is built into annual review and amendment procedures to maintain transparency and responsiveness.
I see you put quite a few meetings in there between the different public works, and that we should have all these different meetings with people too. Yep.
Yeah. It's part of the capital improvement process, if you will. But yeah, that's another opportunity to check in with our department heads on what their needs are, what they're hearing in the community, et cetera.
I like that, and that's a great idea.
Thank you. Strategic shift from policy document to strategic framework. So overall, the draft represents a shift from traditional policy-based document to a more strategic implementation-driven framework. It focuses on housing, redevelopment, funding alignment, administrative clarity, and measurable progress. The core vision remains consistent, but the tools for achieving that vision are far more defined and actionable.
Yeah, I especially think that'll help when it comes to capital projects, to find out, we're talking to them, during the course of the year, what's kind of important to them and what's not.
Yep.
So when we get all those items, it'll be easier to,
Yeah, and much like when the Township Business Association meets with the Township Board, I'm going to recommend that the Planning Commission be invited to that as well, because it's kind of an open session, open dialogue about certain needs. It's mostly the Business Association wanting to know what's coming or what's new, but it also is a chance for people to, especially department heads, I think, to express what's going on in their department and where they're at throughout the year, instead of just having this annual, hey, I need this kind of thing. There's some more rationalization of ability there. So if you look through the packet, Chapter 9 is land use, and likely not a lot changed there. The existing land use has been similar for a while. We have commercial development along the corridor. We have mostly, we're wooded. I think we're probably 8% developed if I was to swag a number. By and large, people come along the corridor, they see heavy development, but if you get out into the other parts of the community, we're rather undeveloped. It breaks down the zoning districts and the future land use map. So you can see that there were some slight adjustments to the future land use map. Not a lot, but if you remember during the steering committee discussions, we wanted to expand upon industrial uses that aren't your typical coal plants or high, caustic effluent type of developments, but more research and development, high-tech industry. Those do fall into the industrial category. And so maybe there's an opportunity, off of County Road 550 where we've prescribed some of that development to happen, where that type of business park or a industrial park could formulate. And then if you look at the area that Longyear was proposing to develop, that was also adjusted from scenic residential to rural residential. And that is important because if they came back and wanted to rezone that property from its current underlying zoning of scenic residential, which is a 5-acre minimum, and rezone it to rural residential, which is a 1-acre minimum, it makes another PUD perhaps more conducive than the current underlying zoning. So this should be nothing new. These were things that were discussed during the steering committee, and now you see it on the map as suggested. So not a big change. Those are probably two of the major changes that were done on the future land use map. So small adjustments over time, but to help curtail, or not curtail, but to help direct growth where we know that we can support it with utilities and zoning.
So are you saying in there that for scenic residential, you think you could do the lot size smaller than 5 acres?
No. So the current future land use map in this particular area, it's hard to see, but that's Huron Woods, and the area north of it where Longyear wanted to develop, the current zoning there is scenic residential. We're not changing the zoning. We're saying the future land use map shows that we could see smaller lot sizes there. So yes, I guess to answer your question in a roundabout way, yes, that is what we're saying. So if somebody wanted to come in and rezone that and request that to create more 1 acre instead of the 5 acres, adding density because water is already to Huron Woods, then that makes sense.
So do you think you could just change that zoning or just have a PUD every time something comes up?
Well, a zoning text or map amendment can come from the township board, it could come from the planning commission, or it could come from the property owner. So there's different ways to do that. Obviously, you have to notify neighbors and have a public hearing, and it has to go through its proper channels, but yes, there are multiple entities that could commence on a request to rezone.
I guess I was just thinking about, trying to reduce housing costs, and if you reduce that in scenic residential, by quite a bit, it'd probably reduce the cost of a house there by quite a bit.
Potentially, yeah, if you're not taking into consideration a 5 acre minimum to get in, to start. So yeah, I think that what you're saying aligns with that, yeah. So that's something we can look at once the plan is adopted, maybe, being proactive about some of those things.
What about changing the minimum lot size in rural residential because of the housing costs also?
Well, if you're on a well and septic system, the minimum lot size now is 1 acre. So be hard to do that because of what that is.
Yeah, you have to be, like when we drilled our well, we had to be so many feet from where Saracens were drilling and so
Yep.
many feet from where that old well was over on Jackson's property.
Yeah.
And you go through that pretty quick. I can't remember what it was, but it was significant.
Yeah, the county does mess around when it
200
comes
feet or
to,
something, and it was quite a bit, and.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, and now some of the systems, it depends on the soils, but if you have a mound system like I do on my property, it takes up, quite a bit of room. And luckily I was able to kind of hide it in the woods a little bit, but yeah, you have to have some property to be able to do that. So we can look at other ways to do it, but I think rural residential is going to be a tough one unless there's water and sewer there. In some areas we might be able to address that, but in areas where our residents are just served by well and septic, it's going to be a 1 acre minimum. And that's per the county, that's not even required. I mean, it's in our ordinance, but it's a county required.
Is Is Mount Manufacturing our only manufacturing company in the township?
That's a good question. I believe
I
so.
think they are.
Mhm.
And do you think that we should list them in here because they are our only one, but they are manufacturing under industrial?
Well, I wouldn't want to say that because they're in a business, general business zoning district.
Okay.
Although, what they are is, we have it, and we can update that in the zoning ordinance, we have it as a scientific research center. And that, to me, kind of aligned with what they're doing, because they're constantly modifying their instruments for medical reasons. So that, to me, aligned with that, and I didn't have a problem with that. But I think that we can adjust all of those things and really update them, because what you're saying is some of our land uses are older, and there's more modern land uses that we can include, and maybe not just keep them in an industrial, but make it a more robust type of, even put it in its own sense, put a like research and development or high-tech industry, that could be its own category.
Yeah, and they did state that the reason for their move was they want to do more R&D.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they are growing exponentially, which is great. So yeah, we didn't want to lose them to, Nagani Township, or, he was looking elsewhere. Fortunately, he found a way to stay in the community. So. But yeah, great point.
I did notice also that you changed or going to change the terminology for segregated business into industrial as far as the zoning goes then?
I think that's a good way to do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more conducive with modern terminology.
Yeah, you can understand it better since,
Yeah.
they're both gonna be the same now then.
Segregated seems to be a kind of an old term.
Mm-hmm. I noticed, wellhead restrictions, it's zoned for the wellhead areas. Is there anything different in that zoning versus rural residential as far as anything?
Can you rephrase that?
We're in a wellhead zoning district.
Yes.
Is there anything different zoning-wise between wellhead and rural residential?
Yeah. If you're in the wellhead protection area, the land uses are very limited. What you can do on the property is very limited, and how far you can dig down is very limited too. So yes, that is an overlay district, which is spelled out in the zoning ordinance as far as what it means and what you can do. Essentially, it's restricted because you want to protect the aquifer for the sake of drinking water. The other side of that question is if you do have a septic, but you have water service, and there are some areas, I think Bishop Woods has water but not septic, same with maybe Huron Woods and some of the other big subs. The lot width can be reduced. So instead of 150 feet of frontage for a minimum lot width, it's 120 if you're served by water. So that's that would be a good exercise to, when we talk about lot sizes, because all of rural residential is a 1 acre minimum. But if we can pick apart rural residential 1, rural residential 2, and identify where our utility capacity is at, then maybe we could reduce lot sizes in those particular areas to help generate.
Yeah. That'd be good.
Okay.
And then my last question about this is, what's conditional rezoning? I didn't see anywhere where there was conditional rezoning on the zoning map, but I saw it was listed on there.
There is one. It's the former Moose Lodge on Brookton Road, which was the Moose Lodge, and then it was Gilbert, and then Mr. Beauchamp bought it for his plumbing business. And if you recall, at that time, it gets recorded at the Register of Deeds that land use can only be the land use. So when that land use ceases to exist, it reverts back to its original zoning, which in that case is rural residential
Okay.
as well. So it's essentially what the planning commission did they took a look at what the proposal was. They, there was criteria that were imposed upon Mr. Beauchamp that he agreed with, and those were recorded. And so he was limited in what he could do while he owns the property, and is limited what he can do with while he uses the property. And then I think Mr. Wiegand wanted to have, as part of that agreement, to have some of his vehicles or the commercial side of that business screened. So there was a fence installed, there was some arborvitae or some plantings in front, and that has matured a little bit over the years to be a pretty decent screening. So that's what a conditional rezoning is. It's saying, we will rezone this, but only for that use and only as long as you have it. And then it reverts back. So anybody that wants to purchase that property, and given, given what it is and what it has been historically, it would be hard to revert that to, because of the investment that's there, hard to revert it to, anything rural residential without having to demo the property and added costs. Yeah, the planning commission, that's a tool that we have, and we're able to be a little bit flexible that way.
Did you see that that's for sale right now?
I know, yeah, I know that there was a tree service operating out of there. We had to call and, address that, so.
I just thought of one more. I just saw something on Facebook about, we had that, I can't remember if it was a variance or what it was, or by right, or for that diesel shop on 550 doing work on the diesels. You remember that? The guy came in a couple times for that, and it was
I thought that he was up where yard builders, that's the special use permit that I recall.
special use, yeah. But that was, it was kind of like on 550 and the Power Road or whatever that road is called. It was kind of like,
Oh, yeah, Mr. Kaito, yep, mm-hmm,
that was denied, right?
it was.
Okay, because it said on Facebook that it was open and it was,
Is he someplace else?
I don't know, it just said
No, he
on,
has a place
He has
off
a
of
place.
550 existing.
oh, he
On the other
does?
Yes,
side.
and that's been there by, back by the logging, so right before the tracks, you take a left and it goes back into what has historically been kind of an industrial
Oh,
land use.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
all right,
So he didn't get his new
no.
spot yet.
Not yet, yeah. Well, we'll see. Okay, let's focus. Appreciate the question. So 10 is goals and objectives. Feel free to go through those, and continue to go through them. I think they're really good. And, they kind of bring together all of the concepts and things that we have described throughout this process. And then Article 11 was drafted by staff, and it just talks about the potential, the data centers and the digital infrastructure that is being discussed currently. It talks about our ability to align with housing development and state policy alignment, so we can become perhaps a redevelopment ready community and qualify for some of those programs that are available through MEDC or in the RRC. Recreational asset improvements. We've been talking about this for a while, but the rec committee is re-engaged. They met, and we had some good discussion about things that we can do. There's also, so many partnerships that are out there that we can capitalize on and work with, and wanted to definitely take advantage of some of those things. So those were some of the they're not really on the radar yet, but they're things that staff is aware of, and we want the planning commission and we want the master plan to speak to them, so that if they do come down the pike, that we are in a position to address them one way or another, whether that's amending the master plan to really incorporate them in a defined way, or to adjust our zoning ordinance to accommodate them, so, which we will probably do anyway, specifically with regard to housing, of course, that's a big one. But the data centers, and there's ways to still allow them perhaps, but make sure that they're relegated to a specific district that has the power and the capacity and the water capacity to serve them. So, that leads to item 7B. And in 7B, I kind of lay out the next steps or final steps to approve the plan. And I've provided you, because when you distribute the plan, it has to be by resolution. So I put together a resolution. It doesn't have to be signed tonight, but it would be nice to get it approved. And what that does is it allows staff, basically, if you're satisfied with the draft, it is a draft. It's a draft all the way until after the public hearing, after the 63-day review period, and we have the ability to update it all the way till then. But this draft, I think, is pretty solid, and we've been working on it for a while now. And as such, I'm requesting that the Planning Commission support the distribution of the draft, because we may hear things back that we want to add in, and take all that information that we get and bring it to the public hearing, and really have a presentation on, this is kind of the basis of the presentation that we'll go off of. I'll save that for that time when the public hearing happens for the potential adoption of the plan. But we want to get it out for review and get the ball rolling on the 63-day review period, because that's, as you know, that's over a couple months, and we're into March, April, and we'd like to have something. We'd like to have it adopted probably the second meeting in May, if possible.
What's everybody think about that? To me, I don't have a problem with it. There was just one thing I was gonna ask you about that you could put in there, but other than that, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do it tonight.
Right, considering that it's a draft, it's fine to do tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, it is complete. I mean, the appendix, I didn't include the appendices or the appendix in this, but it's basically the survey results and public comment that was received. We will include that as, part of the distribution of the plan, but when you put this all together, it's 250 pages, so we didn't want to rip off the whole thing for you and have another, basically this size for your packet. So, but yeah, I appreciate the sentiment, and I think it's good too, and I think it's ready for the public to have their say.
I just kind of wanted to get everybody's feelings on this one thought I had, and, I know it's been an exceptional year and a bad year, but the plowing situation in the township, where we live anyway, probably where you live also, is not good. We couldn't even get out for, 3 days if you didn't have a four-wheel drive. And I got stuck 3 times out in the road with my four-wheel drive trying to plow because nobody had shown up there at all. And so I guess I'm just thinking, I know you had mentioned this before, that it was done where the township kept a truck here and you did some plowing before.
Yeah,
And
we had our own plow in Trowbridge.
And I guess I don't know what that would entail to do that again, or if you would need a special millage to do that, or, what do you think about that?
So are we, before we move
As far as
forward?
putting it in the master plan
Oh,
also.
okay, that's what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Yeah, we could have a goal and some objectives on improving winter maintenance,
yeah.
something that we could add relatively quickly.
Yeah, because it's, I don't know why they can't take 5 minutes and go up there, it doesn't take very long to go up and do the circle, but, at all the other subdivisions, but I suppose it all adds up. But you don't have any say with the County Road Commission at all as to what they do, I'm assuming, right?
Well, I believe there is some flexibility there, but it really comes from the township board, and it does involve, an exchange of money of some kind. You do have to pay for that at some point. I think the benefit that we had at the time is that Greg Britton was a plow driver, worked for the township at the time, in the Building and Grounds Department and also was a township resident. So I'd have to scramble my memory to figure how that worked, but I'm happy to include that at least as a goal and objective, and then we could talk about the actual, if there's a policy that can be put in place.
But even before Greg Britton, Trowbridge did have a plow. We had our own plow.
Okay.
And it wasn't Greg, Greg was a kid.
So
So,
does that
I don't
mean that
know.
we owned our own snowplow, or
Yeah.
we had one designated for
No.
the county?
Long ago, we owned our own. Jason's talking about something different than,
I think we had one
I
parked
was.
here that Greg could just jump in. I
We
don't
don't know.
recall, but I know that there was some agreement there, and I would have to go back and look and see. But I think adding it as a, to the transportation section of improving winter maintenance and snow removal is fine, and I can make that happen quickly.
I think that's a great idea to add that. And I will say that we do winter maintenance today because we keep the sidewalks clear. So this would just be an extension of keeping our roads clear. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
it was a mess.
Well, and now the roads are just terrible
They're
because
a
they never
mess.
got plowed and they're so rough and bumpy and,
I don't need a motion. I don't need a motion for that. Just the resolution.
You just need a motion. I'll make the motion to approve the resolution. Do you want me to read it, Jason?
Sure.
The whole thing?
Well, here, let me read it.
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
I can, but tell me where to start.
So just for the public's information, this is a resolution by the Marquette Township Planning Commission that will distribute the master plan per the requirements of the Michigan Zoning and Planning Enabling Acts to get it out to the entities that are required to receive it.
That's what I'll say. Perfect.
Okay?
Did a great job. We don't have to read the whole thing.
Yeah, that's good.
I support that.
Okay, so Linda and Leanne, thank you. And that should be a roll call vote, please.
okay. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Leanne Kishmarski,
Yes.
Bethany Cody,
Yes.
Linda Winslow,
Yes.
Jim Johnson's a yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all we need for those two?
Yes,
We're
thank
done.
you. Mhm.
So, I see where Jim signs it as the new secretary, I sign it as well. So will they just call and we'll stop by the office, is that how that works?
Yes, what I can do is just, when I get the draft removed and get it printed off for you guys, or a couple copies, I will send you an email and let you know it's here. And I'll keep it up with Andra,
Okay.
and you can just stop in at your convenience.
The A in my name is capitalized.
And I just have one comment about this. I read through the whole thing, and I have to say there's a lot of work that's been done already, but there is a lot of work to do for the goals and the objectives. I just think it's amazing that we've come up with these things, not me, but that they've been addressed, and I thought it was well thought out.
Thank you.
So thanks, kudos to the group that was part of that. It's a lot of work, though. I saw a lot of work in this, Jason.
Yeah, well, it's time
Were
to
you
dig
happy
in.
with the firm that you hired to do that? Did everything work out the way you thought?
They've done a good job, yeah. They had a setback with a medical condition, and that set us back
Months.
a few months. So hence the extension, and the initiative was great. So yeah, I'm proud of this, and I think it's a step in the right direction for us. It's more robust than of a plan than we've had in the past, and I think it addresses the needs that we have right now, which is what a master plan is supposed to do.
Yeah, I think it turned out really well also. I think it helped with those subcommittees and meeting with them like that to go through all those chapters like that too.
Yeah, we got a lot public input with, you know, the Lions Field Day, the business survey, that was something new, and then also the community survey, so lots of good comments. And some comments, you know, they talked about the city and other things. People don't understand the political boundaries oftentimes, so we were able to, you know, glean those out and take the comments that meant something to our community. And even if they were talking about the city, you know, there's still relative comments about how local government does and how they work. And so, yeah, very cool. Appreciate it.
Okay, 8A, did you want to expand further on that then?
Yeah, there's
The
just
debt
two bits on correspondence. Jim's got the second one with you know, the differences in taxation between charter townships and general law or common law township. And the first one, 8A, is data centers. So these are starting to be pretty popular. I think they were, they might have been mentioned during the State of the Union last night, if I remember right, but I'm not positive. But essentially, these are kind of a more modern factory. So every time you know, use artificial intelligence, or we put things in the cloud like pictures of family, those have to be stored somewhere. And so that's what these are. They're basically just giant computer storage areas. And the things to remember is that they use a lot of power and they use a lot of water because they want to keep cool. And they happen to be looking in areas like, you know, not so far up here yet, but in areas where there's cooler climates, because that helps to cool the infrastructure that's inside. They're kind of a hot button planning topic right now. Staff has attended a couple of webinars on them, and we have some draft zoning language that we've created and just things to kind of put on the dartboard for later. But you know, this is one of the presentations that we were shown or we attended, and so we wanted to include that for your information as well. And you need to discuss it too much. Staff's still learning as well, so there is kind of a learning curve there. But essentially, you know, they can be, you know, 50,000 square feet, or they could be 500,000 square feet. There's some larger ones, and some communities downstate are hanging their hat on that being the next, you know, economic boom for their communities, is to have, you know, multiple data centers. I don't know yet what obviously there's a bunch of construction jobs that could be created during the development phase, but I don't know what kind of employment opportunities are you know, what kind of career paths are there for, you know, those who might work there. But I would suspect that a lot of the times, you know, they might have not very many people working for them. They just kind of operate 24/7 and make sure that they run, and that's about it. So we can drill into it further after we get through the master planning process and we start talking about zoning, because they will be something that we want to address. We address it in the master plan, but as far as zoning goes later, you know, we would be very limited. We're limited here by topography, and we're limited by our water capacity, and our ability to serve them, as well as the power grid as well. But it's not out of the question. So in my view, and I've always expressed that to you too, we'd rather be proactive than reactive. So here is your introduction into data centers. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions, you know, after the meeting or after you have a chance to review it. But interesting topic. And they do pay taxes, so it's not like they're not going to get taxed in their investment.
Looks like we have a couple in Michigan already in this.
Oh yeah, yep, downstate.
Southfield and
Mhm.
Saline Township.
Yeah, and it makes sense, Leanne, because of where the power distribution is, and there's obviously a lot of water infrastructure there. So, but the problem is when you have some vacant or dormant farmland, and they want flat area, they want, they don't want to do a lot of site balancing or blasting a rock, I would assume, and, all those are added costs. So thus far, it seems like they're locating in, southern Michigan so far, in areas that were formerly agricultural, and where they might be able to do a run of a water utility and make it viable.
Did you happen, are you familiar with Port Washington in Wisconsin?
I am.
North of Milwaukee?
Mhm.
They're putting in a huge one there, I guess. And a bunch of people are organizing to try and shut it down because it's so huge and taking up all this farmland and,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a land use conflict. I mean, you're taking an industrial, it's one thing to transition from farmland to rural residential to business park to commercial, but to go from farmland to industrial, that generally goes against, zoning. Euclidean zoning anyway, or traditional zoning. I mean, is there a way to screen it or get it out of the view? But I think it really has to do more with a community's capacity to serve that business or development with water and electricity, because it's a huge draw on both. And of course, water would tie into general health, safety, and welfare, so I can see why these folks have an argument there.
mm-hmm. Can I ask you a question about this charter township, that you printed out, difference between it and a regular township? That charter township may levy up to 5 mills charter millage. What exactly does that mean? Does that apply to this at all? Township?
It
or-
could in certain cases. So I actually went to the gym before I came here, and I read this at the gym. And a lot of this stuff, I do understand most of it, but some of the details are more in the manager's realm and the township board as far as budget and taxation. So as a planner, I'm getting there with my 15 years here now. But yes, essentially, from what I read, if there is a specific project and it's a viable project, then the township could levy an additional amount. And I thought this was very interesting after reading it, because in some cases there might be the ability to address recreational needs or utility needs in certain instances. And this seems to give us the flexibility to do that. So
Yep.
I'm gonna, I'll probably read this more than once because it is pretty technical. But yeah, what I'd like to do is kind of review this and then put it into some more general terms for us to chew on. It's really something that the board should look at as well, and maybe that's, I know they get the same publication that we all do, so. But I appreciate you identifying this and having us print it out, because I definitely learned a few things through.
I normally don't read it. I get that township email coming in. Usually it's all these questions and answers, and I don't ever look at it, but this
Yeah.
one, this is a question, what's this all about? So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I
this is
couldn't.
your Township Insights, which comes once a month, and it has various topics that, most of them are actually pretty interesting. But yeah,
I thought that was quite a bit of money if you could do that. Almost
it
5
certainly-
millage?
It certainly would be.
Well,
What do you think that would be roughly? Do you have any idea?
I don't, I could get you some of those numbers, but I don't have them off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's significant.
So yeah, thanks for sharing that, and I would encourage the planning commissioners to take a quick look at it, and if you ever become a board member, it might become more important to you.
All right. 9A, the Township Board Report. Linda Winslow.
hello. So the Township Board met on Wednesday, February 18th. We had 2 guests present presentations. The MAPS superintendent presented about what's going on at MAPS. And also the Lake Superior Community Partnership CEO, Christopher Germain, presented what's going on at Lake Superior Community Partnership. We had the library report, And we had, which I thought was kind of interesting, was that UP billed for our, one of our places over there where Renovari initially started, and it is now Wildflower that's doing some of this build information. We applied for an application from UP Build for some funding, and our preliminary application was accepted, and they asked us to complete a full application. So as that process is through, we're not committed to anything, so we have to go all the way through the process, and then we'll know if, in fact, we can get some funding to put in infrastructure. And so the township will own the infrastructure, which means sewer, water, not roads, but sewer and water.
Sewer and
Because
water, for
the
sure.
roads will not be owned by the county. They will be like some of our other private subdivisions. Okay? So that's my understanding. I'll keep you updated. Supposedly, it's gonna go quickly, I guess. We'll see. So that's pretty much what we talked about. I did go to the Recreation Committee, and I'm sure Jason will share some stuff about the Recreation Committee, so.
I will. Recreation Committee met on the third Tuesday. What was that? I don't know the date, but organizational meeting, first meeting of the year. So elected a chair, elected a vice chair. We talked about pickleball, sledding hill, putting a roof over the ice rink again. So we're going to start prioritizing some of those projects and seeing, where funding might be. And I thought it was a good meeting, and we'll continue to meet once a month or as needed. Oh, also distributed to them the goals and objectives or anything that was mentioned in the master plan draft about recreation so that they can review it and provide comment during this review period that we have. The planning and zoning report, we're focused on the master plan. We want to get that done, so it's been pretty heavy on that. I will say that we reached out to the owner of the Westwood Mall today as a group. So Lenny, our public works superintendent, Janelle Ruff, our assistant assessor, myself, and staff planner Eric Powers called him. He answered. He was aware of what's going on. He's interested potentially in selling the property, so we know that there are two pretty significant businesses or companies that are looking at property in and around our community right now. And so we provided him with direct contact information. So yeah, unfortunate situation there, but I guess in the past we've kind of taken a reactive approach to this, but I made some moves today to try to do something quickly. And if that involves, first and foremost, we're thankful for the safety and that nobody was injured with the roof collapse. Second of all, we feel terrible for the businesses that are there. But this has been ongoing for some time. The gas lines are rusted, the electricity's been turned off, the water's been shut off. It's time for something else to happen. So if we can get Mr. Cohen the owner in a position to where there's a viable redevelopment option there, then perhaps we can engage with these interested parties and also perhaps participate in some kind of assistance with demolition through the brownfield or something. So staff's being proactive with this. I know the news, it's going to be all over TV6, and that's fine. It's unfortunate for us, but it has been a heavy winter, obviously, and probably a normal winter for us. But yeah, we're trying to adjust the situation. I'd also like to thank the fire department and the public works department who, have to respond to these things, and their safety is involved as well. So everybody's done a very professional job, and I'm sure those entities will continue to do so, but we are trying to fill the gap there and get something done. We all agreed as staff today that that would be a major victory for our community and our residents is to get that problem solved.
So are all those other stores in the middle of the mall there, not gonna be able to open indefinitely until
I
that
don't
roof
have the
gets
answers
fixed?
to that.
Seems like it'd be kinda dangerous to let anybody in there right now.
Did it happen during the evening, during the nighttime?
I believe it happened overnight, yeah.
So they came in and found it this morning?
Well, the fire department responded to it last night, so,
Oh.
yeah. And then the building has
How
been
did they
evacuated.
respond to it?
I'm sorry?
How did they respond to it? I mean,
I'm not sure.
everything's closed at nighttime.
Well, I'm sure
I think there was a gas leak again too, so. yeah.
there are alarms that go off,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate or anything like that, or, you know, spread any rumors. All I know is that staff is going to work on this and work with the owner to, you know, find a solution.
Okay, that's it with planning and zoning?
For now, yes.
All right, announcements from anyone?
No, I have one question though. Commerce Drive is like Pothole City out there. Is there, like this spring, I mean, it's been bad for a number of years. And there must be a series of springs in that one section because I think it's just a hard part of the road to maintain or something. But is the Marquette County Road Commission, has there been any discussion with them? Because this is a main thoroughfare, and you would think that that would be on a priority list because of the traffic on that, Commerce. It's a north and south route.
Yeah, appreciate the comment, and we share your sentiment. I don't have that answer for you. I thought it was getting repaired last year. I don't know if Linda has an update, but that's really a board kind of question or a manager question, but I can get you an answer to it. But I don't have anything firm on that right now as far as date, type of reconstruction or anything like that.
Just wondering.
Yeah, no, it's a high priority.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll make sure that makes the meeting minutes.
That's all I had.
Any public comment? All set? Okay. Additional comments by planning commissioners? Leanne, Bethany, Linda?
I just have one thing, August 1st, it's a Saturday, 2026, we will have Community Day again. And so, Jason, that might be an opportunity to put our master plan table out. And again, if we are thinking about surveying our residents, that's certainly a parent-child event with lots of things going on. So
Yeah.
it's a good group.
Okay.
So, and it also takes volunteers, so we'll be recruiting those folks.
Okay, I didn't have a comment, but I had a question for Jason.
No.
Sorry,
It's your question day.
I hope I can answer it.
I don't know if anyone else has seen anything about that big housing meeting in May, housing commission, not, who's all involved in it? It's kind of like a,
Consortium?
yeah,
Do you want to go?
that's kind of like a big thing UP wide. Is that, do you know much about that, about what they're gonna talk about, or?
There's so many different entities working on housing. It doesn't surprise me. I don't know the particular one that you're talking about. I know that township supervisor serves on a couple of various boards with regard to housing. So no, I don't have any specific agenda. I can get stuff like that to you, but from what I read, Build UP through Invest UP has money that they need to distribute.
They do.
And so they're looking for more shovel-ready projects. The one thing that I did glean from that program is that it's not grant money. It's low, basically low-interest loans that require to be paid back and potentially leave the township on the hook if the project doesn't go through. So I expressed those concerns on that particular pot of funding to the supervisor and manager after reading through it and kind of reading the fine print. Again, I think if we can, my opinion is if we can affect housing affordability through zoning, we don't have to wait for the state or the feds to come up with this, stimulus money, whatever it is, because that's really what it was. Invest UP got money through the stimulus package that was released that went to the state, and then instead of the state dispersing that as they see fit, they took in requests basically, and so Invest UP was able to get a share of that money to distribute themselves, but it's not like grant money. It's intended to be, at least from my reading, to be a pot of money that is kind of a revolving loan fund for housing. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but I think communities need to be aware of the implications.
And to add on to that, the board knows that piece, and so they're working with the developer to have some kind of assurance, a monetary assurance, that if he defaulted on what he had to pay, that the township would get what he puts up, I'll call it collateral, what he puts up for collateral, which would then pay back that loan.
Yeah, it's a.
So it's, it's kind of a low-interest loan to kind of get you through and get that shovel-ready project done and people in those houses. And then, in my mind, we'll start collecting that money, which will then come in sooner than later, kind of thing. So some of these projects take years to complete. And this particular project developer, I'll call him, wants it done sooner. So he's gonna, his project, his housing, as I see it, and you can go look at what he's built in Nagani, is putting it up, putting it together, getting it out there sooner than stick-built houses that we would watch grow over 2 or 3 years. It's kind of like the Florida thing where they come in and someone puts in all the basement, someone puts in all this, someone puts in all that, and then they sell them.
Is he local? That Wildflower, I think it is?
He has 2 homes, one in Wisconsin, one here.
Yeah.
His wife would prefer to be here, but they're out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, so who knows, So we'll see. We're not committed to anything by filling out these applications. So until we, quote, sign on the dotted line as a township, that's kind of where it is. So there's been lots of discussion. I think it's on the board meeting camera that you can watch, so, yeah.
Okay. I thought of one more question.
We could turn them off.
It kind of doesn't have to do with the township, but I thought maybe you might know this. But that brownfield project they have on 5th and Washington that they're doing,
No idea.
no idea about it? You don't know about it?
5th and Washington,
Yeah.
where, one of the pot shops, or?
Yeah, well, no.
Well,
it's
no,
not-
no,
It's that
not
one
the
that's
pot
been
shop.
closed. It was
Oh,
that
that
hydroponics or
flooring.
whatever it was.
Yeah,
That old flooring place.
yeah,
They're putting, it's like a $10 million project.
yeah, they
Oh,
are.
okay, that housing, or
It's housing.
Housing and then commercial on the bottom,
Yeah.
and then parking in the basement from the back.
Okay.
But,
That'd be nice.
They got funding for that.
yeah, but, well, the weird thing is, every time there's something about it, it talks about the developer, but it doesn't give any names of anybody, or even the name of the developer, corporate name, which I thought was really odd. So I
So
thought
someone
maybe you
knows
might know
that.
who's doing it, but guess
I
not.
don't know.
That's strange. Okay. Well, since I can't think of any more questions, I guess meeting adjourned at 7:15.
Thank